Our next speaker is Natalia Alexandrova, and she'll be introducing the last topic of the conference, which is off the grid, where the grid refers to the electricity grid. So please welcome Natalia.
Hi. So hello. After such a presentation, I feel a little bit strange being here. But anyway, I just want to tell you something more about privacy, and I think you'll be thinking about that for a while. So I'm working for a smart home company, which is called M-Climate. It's a Bulgarian company. And before that, I was working for a big energy company, ČEZ, for 5 years. And I was dealing with customers and complaints. So I would like to ask you, who had a bad experience with the energy company for the last 1 year? Do you have bad experience? You? It's only you? So it's a good percentage? So, better? So, okay. So how did you feel about that? Bad? Really bad? You really didn't want to have anything in common with them, right? Yeah, absolutely. So let's look a little bit what's going in the energy sector as a whole. I'm pressing the right button, but it's not working. Up, okay. So let's think a little bit about the energy as a whole, as the sector. This is a very conservative industry, and it's really slow moving. Actually, if you think for the last 120 years since the electrification of New York was done, okay, thank you. There was no real change in the energy system concept as a whole. There was the producer, there was the buyers, and there was the consumer. Nothing really changed for so long. Actually, even the electric poles didn't change. They were made of steel, made of wood, but nothing different. What you see right now on the picture, this is just a project for new electrical poles in Iceland that were made like a couple of years ago, but this is still just a project of the architects. They're pretty nice, but they're really not installed. So this is one thing that's going around the energy sector. What else is going around? Aging grid infrastructure. This is a highly capital-intensive industry, and energy companies really need to invest a lot to keep this infrastructure. And of course, there is rising energy consumption, so they need to invest more and more. But at the same time, we have the price regulation and all the authorities that they want the price go up. So the economic sense in all this is how should we invest in the grid if we don't want to have the price of the electricity higher. So what else is happening nowadays? We have extreme weather events. With the climate change, if we have a storm, it's a big storm. And if this is a big storm, there is a big destruction on the lines, which means additional investments for the grid company. So what else is coming to the whole sector? The renewables. For the last 10 to 20 years, solar power plants were built, wind power plants were built, and all this is coming to the grid. And not on the last place, customers. We, like customers, have our smartphones, and we are really demanding, we want our service all the time, and we don't want any interruptions. So what is this doing with the energy companies? Well, energy companies are not really happy. First of all, they're not really happy with all these renewables that are going to the grid because they made it really fluctuable, and this is causing quite many problems for them. And the customers are pushing all the time. They want the information, they want the electricity, and so on. But we have the climate change that everybody is talking about, and we're talking about renewables, and their price came down like 6 times since 2005. So it's actually cheaper to have renewables. So countries and governments started thinking about better and sustainable energy production, from one hand, and from the other hand, they started thinking about more politically independence, because if you take the gas from Russia, then you're politically obliged to keep up with that. So there are many governments that are already having in their policy the renewables as a focus. For example, New York. Actually, this is the first city in the world where the electricity grid was developed. So actually, right now, they have a focus to reform the energy vision and have their target till 2030 to have 50% of the energy in New York to come from renewables. Or Hawaii, which is a really interesting example of the islands. They're trying to have 100% green energy. Or Sweden, or even China, which has their roadmap by 2030 to have 30% of the generated electricity to come from renewables. And this is the picture you see is a solar power plant, the biggest one in China. So they just decided to make it really nice. So people just even start thinking a little bit more creative about such a boring industry. So I think this is the moment where I should tell you that I'm not an engineer, so I'm not a technical guy. But if you have really technical questions, after that I have colleagues from CHES who can really answer you. So let's look at the grid, how it looks like. The traditional grid that existed that is still existing is this one. So we have the power plant and generation, we have the lines here, and we have the homes and the customers. Actually, not customers. They used to call them subscribers. You're subscribed for the electricity service, and after that you get the bill. So you don't have any comments or anything about that, so you have to pay the bill. So what's happening right now? We have the solar plants, we have the electric vehicles, we have the wind farms, and we have the smart homes. All this is connected to the grid. So the way of management of such grid in the way like it is right now, it's impossible. So we started talking about smart grids. And technologies are helping do that. We are talking about distributed energy resources. What does it mean? So if you imagine there is a village and you have the little solar plant there, so the village can consume just this power, and they don't need to get additional power from big coal power stations. And technologies are really helping to have this energy revolution right now. For example, blockchain technology, actually it is completely changing the concept of the energy system as a whole, because we are talking about smart contracts and the billing, and everything is going to be completely different compared to the way we are used to have our bills right now from energy companies. And we are talking more about shared energy. For example, there is a community already in Germany, the Sonnen community. The Sonnen is a producer of batteries. So actually they created a community where people who have batteries and solars on their roofs, they can share energy. And blockchain is helping this happen really easy. So what is the place of the smart home? Because I started really thinking about our privacy, and it looks that we are stepping a little bit further of not being private, because smart home, with all these devices that control different appliances at home, actually would help the energy companies fight with all the problems I told you in the beginning. With smart devices, energy companies can really manage the grid and manage the surplus of production of renewables or the surplus of consumption. What does it mean? There is the term demand response. And I will try to really explain it really easily. But imagine that there is the solar power plant around a small city, and the sun is shining the whole day, so there is a real production of energy. But at the same time, the consumption during the day is steady. I mean, people are at work, so nobody is using anything at home. So what the grid company should do with the surplus of this overproduced energy? Usually, right now in Bulgaria or even in quite many other countries, the operator just calls and says to the operator of the solar power plant, just turn it off because I cannot keep the balance. But this is free, clean energy that is somehow lost. So what the grid company can do using the smart devices is just turn on your appliances at home. For example, there is a device that helps energy companies turn your electric water heaters, which means that if there is a surplus of the solar energy, they just turn your boiler and that's it. But where is the privacy of the customer? You agree that the energy company that you don't really like is managing your home appliances. So actually, where is the freedom in this moment? So can we, because we are paying to energy companies, but at the same time we are giving up our freedom. So can we get money from the energy company? Right now, with the smart grids, yes. Now we are not really the subscriber of the energy company. We are becoming partners, business partners of the energy company, because they can give you money and you can allow them to use your appliances. For example, in the States, there is the big company Nest, owned by Google, and they have their smart thermostats, and right now they have energy programs. So the customer can get between 50 and 100 bucks per year if they agree that the energy company will turn their air conditioning at certain time. And yes, people are doing, and Nest are doing pretty well with quite many energy companies around United States, because people are giving up their freedom and they're getting money for that one. Another way to get money, and they're doing it right now in Norway, like pilot projects, but when there is an overproduction of, again, the solar energy, customers are getting signals through application that the price right now is really low, or even it could be even negative price, so they can turn their appliances at home. So if we talk about relationship between energy companies and customers, we are a little bit in a better position right now, because we can become prosumers, which means that we are not just consuming energy, but we can produce energy and give it back to the grid and get money from all this. But at the same time, if we get money, we give up part of our freedom. And if we go back to the previous speech, so we should really make our choices. But if you think from the point of view of the energy company, they really need that, because with all these distributed energy resources and all these surpluses they're having, they need to manage the grid. So it's really a matter of choice. And just to sum up, can we really have our life off the grid? This is a really nice eco capsule that is really can give you off-grid living. It's made by a Slovak company, but I believe that if you want to be off-grid, you really have to be somewhere in the woods, and you can really afford it. But if you want to stay in a megapolis, a big city, living off-grid is completely impossible right now, because you have even to think about the regulation and the law. You cannot just cut your wires. Think about the district heating, toplificacja. Even if there are some people who don't use it, they're still paying some bills. So it's the same with the electricity and the life of the grid. But at the same time, there is like 1/4 of the whole world population that they don't even have access to electricity. So here is the question. There are the countries who already used electricity and they are thinking about not being tied to the energy company and thinking about off the grid. And at the same time, we have communities, for example, in Africa, who really live off the grid. But what is the quality of their life? So where is the balance? And I will stop here. And I'm glad that the next speaker is going to talk about such solution for off-grid living. So thank you.